on-premises licenses?
Yes.
And for kind of special event licenses,
yes.
where I imagine you'd have like a little marijuana area. What's that all about, and what would that look like?
Well, those are permissive regulations. So there are several portions of the Cannabis Control Commission portion of the initiative that are mandates. The permissive regulations allow for research and testing licenses, one event licenses, and on-premise consumption licenses. But that would be up to the determination of the Cannabis Control Commission whether to issue those licenses or not.
But so could it look like Amsterdam, where there's coffee shops, and in Amsterdam, as I understand it, it's actually illegal, but legal coffee shops where you can go in and have a rookie cookie and sit down?
The other thing that's important to remember is an on-premise license requires a vote of the locality in order for that to happen. So if, for instance, the city of Somerville wanted to have an on-premise location, the city of Somerville would have to have a vote of the voters in the city of Somerville to determine whether that would happen or not.
And what that would look like, that'd be completely up to the Cannabis Control Commission, what the regulations around
That's
that.
right. So there are two things that have to happen. First, the Cannabis Control Commission has to authorize those kinds of licenses, and then the city or town has to have a citywide vote of the voters in order to put that into effect.
And Rep. Garlick just now said that the Cannabis Control Commission, based on how the language is worded, would be absolutely weighted towards the marijuana industry. Is that true?
No. There, in the initiative, there are portions of the initiative that suggest what the experience should be for the Cannabis Control Commission. But it doesn't necessarily say anything about the industry. There is a regulatory body, the Cannabis Advisory Board, that has folks that are in the industry. But, you wouldn't want a plumber or an electrician to be advising the Cannabis Control Commission on what kind of regulations they should have. It's important to have people involved in the industry regulating the industry, just like you have doctors on the Doctors Board of Registration, making sure that doctors comply with all of the registration requirements that are required by the state. So it doesn't make. It's a hollow argument to say there are industry people on this advisory board. It's absolutely necessary for that to happen.
And the advisory board doesn't write any regulations, right? They're an advisory board.
That's right. So all they do is suggest to the Cannabis Control Commission the regulations that would be appropriate.
And Lynn Nichols from the Mass Hospital and Health Association was saying that this would increase healthcare costs because of emergency room visits, because people would be ingesting these edibles for whatever reason in a way that makes them have to go to the ER. Is there anything in the referendum that's going to prevent that from happening, or
prevent people from going to the ER for over-ingesting marijuana?
Well, I guess, or maybe better question is, do you agree with her that there will be a spike in ER visits because people are ingesting edibles?
I will suggest that in Colorado there has been some suggestion that ER visits have increased because of people visiting from out of state that are not familiar with how to use edibles. But Colorado also has an education program called Start Low and Start Slow that allows for folks to be informed at the dispensaries about if they're using edibles, they need to make sure that they use them responsibly. And so Colorado has taken incremental steps in changing their edible regulations, and we believe that Massachusetts will have the strongest regulations around edibles of any state in the country.
And on the
because we will be able to learn from those other states.
And on the potency issue that the Attorney General talked about, where do you stand on that? And would a limit on potency dampen the marijuana industry, or would it?
I think
not?
Folks in the marijuana industry have suggested that. We haven't looked at that. I think that the Cannabis Control Commission could suggest potency controls, but bottom line is the labeling requirements will show that folks will know exactly what they're buying, and they will be able to self-titrate, if you will. We have 3.2 beer and we have 151 proof alcohol that's in essence 75.5% pure alcohol. There are no limits on alcohol, the potency of alcohol. And so I think that the potency argument is just another scare tactic that they're using, because what you will be able to do is use a dose that's appropriate for you with an edible or even a smokable product.
And you said that the commission could suggest potency limits, because I thought there's nothing in there about allowing them to do that.
There's language in the initiative that says that the Cannabis Control Commission can control safety and health concerns around marijuana. And so we believe that that gives the Cannabis Control Commission the authority to look at potency and suggest regulations around its appropriateness.
Suggest it or write the regulations?
Well, write the regulations.
And what about, could the Cannabis Control Commission ban edibles if they, under that same? No?
No.
Okay. There's no chance to do that.
No.
And can you remind me your title at the...
I'm the campaign manager.
Okay.
Last name is spelled Luzier.
Yeah.